We're here on Manhattan's ritzy Fifth Avenue. People with expensive taste come to shop here thanks to stores like Bulgari, Dolce & Gabbana, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, and Tiffany. But in 1994, this street was home to one of the biggest heists in New York City history.
Here, more than $1 million in gems snatched from display cases at Tiffany's.
For InsideEdition.com, I'm Sal Bono, and this is New York Gritty.
Tonight, they're still looking for two armed men who robbed Tiffany's of more than $1 million in jewelry, the biggest heist in this famous store's long history.
One of the crown jewels of Fifth Avenue is Tiffany & Company, a citadel of American glamour. Tiffany's is world famous for its little blue boxes, diamonds, jewelry, and its place in pop culture thanks to the Audrey Hepburn film Breakfast at Tiffany's, which is actually based off a Truman Capote book. In 1994, thieves snuck into Tiffany's and snatched over $1 million worth of jewelry. But who would be daring enough to actually go and rob Tiffany's? Security at Tiffany's rivals that of Fort Knox, so anyone looking to get inside would need to know its weaknesses.
A male black approaches him, puts his arm around his shoulder, puts a gun into his waist, says, cooperate and you won't get hurt.
I was Captain Sal Blando. I was the commanding officer of the 3rd Detective Division.
A daring robbery at Tiffany's. Guards, security cameras, and a high-tech alarm were no match for the men who stole more than $1 million worth of jewelry.
The security guard was on his way to work. He was going to do an overnight, and he was waiting to cross Fifth Avenue, at which time two men approached him and showed him guns. And they said, "You're going to walk us into the employee entrance. You're going to tell them that we're your cousins and we need to use the bathroom." He walked them in, did what they asked of him, and once they got inside, they took all the security agents and tied them up, put them in one spot. And it wasn't a daylight robbery where you run in and smash the glass and grab and run. They took their time, they opened the cases. There was no damage done really that I can remember. Obviously they didn't have enough information. For example, the combination to the safe, to the vault, where the good stuff is really kept. So they just took the pieces that were left out in the open.
Investigators say the thieves made off with more than $1 million worth of merchandise. But what raised their suspicions the most was the precision and efficiency with which the crime was carried out.
You think it was an inside job that they knew?
That's one of the avenues we're investigating right now.
What do you think?
They were very, very professional. They were on a schedule.
They obviously had inside information because at certain counters, if you've been in there, glass countertops all around the floor, certain ones, not all of them, had mats behind them, which were wired to an alarm system. Those cases, they didn't go near. They avoided those mats. Secondly, there was a security director's office on another floor, and he had in a locked cabinet with 3 camera recordings, I believe, separate from the ones down in the main security booth. So they knew about those hidden recorders up in his office. They went up there, broke into the cabinet, and took the videotapes.
It's well known that even on 47th Street, some backdoor operations will give you anywhere from 30 to 60 cents on the dollar.
I just assumed that they had a fence and they would be able to dump all this jewelry out. Turns out they didn't. And what they were attempting to do was sell it on the street at discount prices, which would prove to be their undoing.
I spoke with reformed jewel thief Larry Lawton, who had no involvement in the Tiffany's heist.
I am currently the founder and president of the Reality Check program, where we work with young people to keep them out of prison. In my past, I was known, and still am known, as the biggest jewel robber in the United States. I robbed between $15 and $18 million and up to 20 jewelry stores. What I know about the 1994 jewelry robbery at Tiffany's in New York City is that, first of all, it was one of the biggest heists in the city. And Tiffany's obviously is known as one of the premier jewelers in the country. I also know that the people who did it, pretty stupid. These guys obviously didn't have a fence. What is a fence? A fence is a person that takes stolen property of any type and gets rid of it, and he's gonna make it clean. A criminal has a fence. They go to somebody to get rid of something else. When I heard Tiffany was robbed, my first thought was, I wonder where they got rid of the jewels. Because it's a very close-knit society, the jewelry industry. They had to have connections. They had to have somebody in to get rid of them. And then when I heard how they got caught, I thought, what idiots.
Apparently it wasn't the perfect crime because tonight police say they've busted the bandits behind the heist.
A $100 bracelet in Johnny's jewelry store would be worth $200 if it had Tiffany's on it. It's also a double-edged sword because now when you want to fence this and sell it, everybody knows Tiffany was robbed. Oh my goodness. We put out a tips line, a hot tip line, and waited for calls.
Now, Tiffany's Insurers is offering $25,000 in cash for any information leading to the recovery of the jewelry and the apprehension and conviction of the two gunmen.
On the tip hotline, we get a call from a gentleman in Brooklyn, I believe, who was working in an office building in Midtown Manhattan. And a messenger made a delivery to his office and stopped by his desk and said, hey, want to buy a bracelet for your wife? And he looks at it, and it's Tiffany. Then he went home, called us. We found out the name of the messenger company, and I sent 3-5 detectives up to the location, and they sat outside his house, apartment house. And at about 5:30, 6 a.m. when he walked out, jumped him and brought him in. And he had a couple of pieces of Tiffany jewelry in his pocket. So it becomes a game then of who talks first gets the best deal.
6 men were arrested in connection with the heist at Tiffany & Company, including 2 employees. Security guard Mark Bascombe, security supervisor Scott Jackson, his cousins Mark Class and Derek Jackson, and friends Theodore Johnson and Charles Gilliard.
Yeah, tell my girl I say I love her. These were opportunist criminals. These guys had an opportunity in a robbery. They weren't professionals. They didn't do this for a living. They didn't understand the crime business and they didn't understand the criminal business. These guys flip. Cops are experts at flipping people. They know what to say.
What do you want me to say, that I did it?
Everybody thinks they're not going to get caught. They get caught. I don't care who you are.
You commit a crime, and you commit a crime like this in New York, you are going to be caught.
Of the 6 men arrested, 4 served time in prison in connection with the Tiffany's heist. 1 was convicted of another crime at the store. The case against the last defendant is sealed. Sal Blando retired from the NYPD but still works in security. Of all the cases he's cracked over the years, he says the Tiffany's robbery stands out for its audacity.
It took balls. Sometimes I'm surprised at what people have the balls to do.
Pulling off a heist at Tiffany's is something even the most experienced jewel thief would hesitate to do. Had these guys been successful, they would have gone down in infamy. But it was their inexperience that did them in and made one of the most brazen heists in the history of New York City nothing more than a fumbled con job.